Hey everybody, this is James,
Marco,
Nabil,
and Mikey.
And this is the Movie Pals podcast number 176. In today's episode, we'll be going over what we've been watching, followed by a full review of The Watchers. So without further ado, let's get into what we're watching.
Hey, what you watching?
All right, so we're back with another segment of what we're watching because, well, it's been backed by high demand. A lot of you seem to like it, so we're going to continue doing it until we do something else with this segment. So, man, who am I going to pick? Let's see. Eeny, meeny, miny, Mikey. Let's start with you. What have you been watching, sir?
Well, last time I brought up a show called Dark Matter, and I said I was kind of blown away by the first 2 episodes that were out. And since then, I have been continuing on. I am caught up through episode 6, which is the last one that they have released. And it's really, I mean, if you want to know what it's about here, it's, watch the other episode, obviously, but just real quick here, it's a man that gets thrown into an alternate version of his life, and he's trying to get back to his version and back to his family. It's a sci-fi thriller, and it's really well done, in my opinion. I like what they're going and with the story. They are traveling between these 2 different worlds, and some other ones are tossed in the mix as well. And they really do a good job kind of explaining or simplifying how this stuff is working. I kind of take this in kind of like Inception. It's like a really complicated, crazy version of science that we have no idea how it works, but they kind of explain it in a way where it makes sense. It's kind of simplified, but it works with what we're trying to see. And the characters are good. They keep the story moving, and just interesting things are happening with, the 2 people that are in the wrong version of their life. And I'll kind of leave it at that. I don't like giving spoilers away, especially when something has not finished up. But it's a really good show. I still like it. It's just as good as the first 2 episodes, like I was mentioning last time. So I'm still liking it.
They're going to have 9. I looked it up. They're going to have 9 episodes total, right? So
yeah, 9. So they're almost done. A couple more weeks.
Nice. So it has kept your, I guess, entertainment value wise, it's kept your attention, and you recommend it, right? For the most part, for the sound of it.
Yes, definitely recommending this. I have had a few people watch it since I was talking about it last time, and they're on track with it as well. They're liking it as well. So definitely recommend.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw a trailer for it recently on Apple TV. Got my attention, so I might dabble with it. We'll see.
Now let me ask too: is it very over the top twist thriller kind of sci-fi thing, or is it a little bit more straightforward? Because I like a good twisted thriller, but I don't know if I can keep
He's
up with
twirling his mustache right now.
Yeah.
What a twist! No, there's not twists, right? There's no. I mean, this movie plays it straightforward. There's things that it leaves in mystery, so it's revealing things a little slowly as the movie as the show progresses. But there's not really a huge twist, or there might be later on, obviously in different episodes. Sure. I don't know. But as currently, it's pretty straightforward. They're figuring things out as they go, and you're just kind of on the ride with them. There's not really a huge twist or anything that you have to figure out. It's thriller, but not a huge mystery, if that makes sense.
All right. What else have you been watching?
Also, James gifted me The House of Dragons.
Ooh.
That's a Max show that came out a little bit ago. Season 2 is about to come out, and I was planning on watching it anyways. I didn't watch it when it first released. I watched about 2 episodes. It just wasn't really grabbing me. So I just said, I'll wait until all of them come out, and I'll just binge watch the whole thing from there, which is what I did this weekend. I watched every episode Saturday and Sunday of this weekend.
That's a lot of Game of Thrones, by the way.
Yeah.
It was a lot to take in. I'm glad I did watch this show, though. After the first 2, even when I watched it this time, I was like, yeah, they're good. I'm not saying the first 2 are bad episodes. It just didn't get me going for the episode. After episode 3, though, I really did like the show, and it kept my attention, and I loved the show after I ended up watching all of them. So it was really good. Nice. I don't think it's as good as Game of Thrones, but it's definitely a great show. They do a great job, and there's a time jump there, and they did a great job with casting. The people they get for the older versions of the people are just spot on. So I did like that they did that.
And Mikey, it was a disc one I gave you, so I know that should have looked pretty good too.
Yeah.
Way better than probably on Max.
Yeah, they're just not consistent with their quality. But yeah, it's definitely a slower burn at the beginning. I agree with you there, but it once they get through like all the explanations and who's like it really gets going and grasps your attention with all the planning and the conniving that this type of show has. You'd recommend this to a Game of Thrones fan?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's the same kind of feel. I don't think it has like the big overarching like whole land story. It kind of focuses on one house as opposed to a bunch of houses, but still has the same feel as Game of Thrones. Still has the quality, in my opinion, as a Game of Thrones story. So definitely recommend.
Right on, man. What else? Is that all you've been watching, or you got something else?
One last thing I got here is just a small movie. I don't have much to say about it here, but I did watch it. I watched it with my family. Arthur the King. This is a Mark Wahlberg movie where he's a renowned adventure racer, is what it's called. They go like 400 miles across like crazy terrains, and just a really long race for multiple days. He's getting a little older in the movie, and this is kind of his last hurrah. And when he's going through, he meets a dog, and he kind of adventures along with this dog. So it sounds kind of simple when you say that. And this story is fairly straightforward. It kind of does what you expect. I did not expect it to go as much into the dog, because there's like actually scenes where this dog is like roaming around, and there's actual scenes with just the dog, no humans. So it did a little bit more there than I was expecting it to, which sounds kind of weird, but it works out for what the story was. Because it really does kind of come down to how Mark Wahlberg and this dog are kind of, the relationship with the two and the team as well. So it just was a nice, positive message movie for a family could watch. It's not bad. There's not really much to say because it's a pretty straightforward movie, but I did enjoy it, and my family did as well.
It seems like we almost all watched this movie. You saw the trailer for the look of it.
If you saw the trailer, you saw most of it, yeah.
I remember this is one of those trailers where I was like, damn, are they going to not show us the rest of the movie? Okay, never mind. Okay, cool.
Save myself an hour and a half there. No, I'm just kidding. So it's a good family-friendly movie then, you would say.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a good watch.
Good stuff, man. Nice little variety there. Up next, we have a fan favorite here. Nabil, who just can't keep twirling his mustache today.
Yeah, my mustache really got a little bit of a wax on there. It's really, I'm really going for it this time. Old dastardly villain look.
You could though. You could.
Yeah.
What have you been watching? What have you been watching, sir?
I've seen a few things. Things that I think this time people might actually be interested in. Well, let me say, people that are on this pod might be interested in.
James actually has his pillow next to him this time.
Just in case.
Prepared.
Like, Nabil smarts up. All right, let me mute myself. No, I'm just kidding.
I started with the new Netflix film Hitman that came out just over the weekend. This was directed by Richard Linklater and stars Glenn Powell. It's about a professor who's moonlighting as a hitman with the city police department in New Orleans. And he kind of gets himself into a situation with a woman where he is a bit over his head with moonlighting as a hitman while also falling in love with her. So it is a different film for Richard Linklater. He's primarily known for a lot of character work, which this film has, in regards to the fact that Glenn Powell's character Gary Johnson plays a bunch of different characters for quite a period of the movie. But I have to say it was quite enjoyable, especially for a Netflix film. There was a lot of good comedy. There was a lot of chemistry between Glenn Powell and the female lead, Adria Arjona, who you might know from like Star Wars Andor, and she was also in Pacific Rim Uprising. Yeah, it was a really. I was surprised at how entertaining it was. It was not the film that I thought it was going to be, because it starts the first like 20 minutes of the movie going in one direction where you think it's going to be about a piece of this guy embodying the role as undercover police officer and adopting a persona of a hitman of sorts. And it starts that way, but then it starts progressing into this weird pseudo love story, plus more focused on this man embodying this persona he's been pretending he is. So Yeah, I think the film was really funny, and it was different. Especially, I go back to saying for a Netflix film, because it's their films are very much one note, where it's like leading too far into the serious action with a little bit of comedy, or it's very dramatic for some reason, where you're like, I have no investment in these characters, and you actually care, or at least I should say you're interested in the characters. Glenn Powell, especially, he's just very charismatic in this whole film.
I mean, it's a Richard Linklater film, which is seems he has done like sillier movies and such like that. Don't get me wrong, he does, but when he wants to make serious movies, this guy has maybe some of the all time like most serious movies that are really dramatic and good. So
right.
Yeah,
I mean, you enjoyed seeing the characters on the screen, like throughout the whole film. That was, like I said, he's known for his character work in his films, and even though this genre is a little different for him, you still are very much invested in what they're doing, and at least, rooting for them throughout the film.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised by the levity you mentioned that it has in the movie. Would you say it's still more adult and entertaining, or is it something you can enjoy with family?
There's some steamy scenes in the middle of the film, which I did not expect to happen. It just kind of, and I understand the intent behind it, showing a lot of passion that wasn't there in the beginning of the film. So I would say because of that, unless you're really good with the fast forwarding or the covering of the eyes, that probably isn't good. But outside of those scenes, for the most part, I think you can watch it with a younger teenager, and you'd be okay. You just, you got to speed through some of those scenes first.
Right.
It's on my list. I definitely want to check it out. And they announced it a while ago too. So
yeah.
Yeah, I kind of see people describing this as like a rom-com thriller, but I didn't get that much comedy out of it. Did you think it was funny?
I think the dialogue is witty and it's funny, and I think that has to do with the Glenn Powell, but also kind of the nature of what the story is of this undercover police officer ish, and the situation he gets into with a love interest. So there's like a darker comedy tone to it. I saw a video with him, Richard Linklater, about he was looking at it more as like a film noir and a screwball comedy. I don't know if I fully see it. I think there's aspects of it, but I think that's a very loose interpretation of what the film actually ends up being. But he's definitely trying to incorporate some of the imagery in the film is a part of it, and there's some of that with especially the personas that Gary Johnson, Glenn Powell's character, kind of plays as he's trying to disguise himself as different types of hitmen.
Right on. Interesting genre combo there. Good stuff, man. Yeah. What else have you been watching?
One other thing I've been doing, I've been working on this for a few weeks. I'm making some good progress, but I've finally started watching The Wire on HBO.
Yes.
And it has, this show is about essentially the Baltimore drug scene, and it's seen through different perspectives of drug dealers in Baltimore as well as law enforcement there. And it is on a lot of people's essentially all-time best shows ever. And I'm on season 4. There are 5 seasons, so I'm almost at the end here. And I have to say, it is a very enjoyable series. But I don't. Maybe there are just better things that have come out over time. But I don't see it being like the apex of television. So like I feel like there are better shows as far as like the best show of all time. Because this essentially, and James knows because we hear from people all the time that everybody would say you've got to watch it, the best show ever made.
I'm assuming it's also because we'd never watched it when it came out too.
Yeah,
right.
At the time, it was one of the first shows to really take that tone and really do that style of show.
I will say there's nothing wrong with the series. It is entertaining. It is. You're invested in all the characters. They do a great job with the storytelling, and each season really focuses on an aspect of, what, like in one season they're focusing on just a certain area of Baltimore and the drug scene, and another season they're focusing on the Port Authority over there and the issues that are going over there. So it really gets you from A to Z through each season. So you really are interested in what's going on and who's coming forward, while also I can see, because this show I believe started in 2003 if I'm not mistaken, that you can see the difference here where it's like actual character progression through each season. So it's not just kind of like this one note character, like they're changing as we go along and growing as a character or regressing, and it's that keeps it interesting. So I can see a lot of the things where it is a good show. It's a solid HBO show. I think it's one of my favorite shows that I've seen, but like I said, it might be because there's been other things since, so I don't know if I can compare it to the same thing a lot of lists, but I don't know if I can agree with saying it's like the best thing ever. But with that said, it's very heavy on the tone, as you can imagine, with it dealing with a lot of drugs. They really go in hard with the how much drugs are being used and how that's affecting the community, and then you get to see a lot of political corruption and intrigue within that, and law enforcement and their different approaches on how to make the community better or worse in some cases. And it really gives really good perspective on how everybody is trying to do good in their own way, or just try to get by, and that makes it feel really real. In that sense, like there's a lot of good groundedness here. I'd say it's definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it before.
Yeah, I'm glad you're liking it, man. It's good, awesome, good to hear.
Thank you. Well, that's what I've been watching.
All right, good stuff there, Nabil. And you know what? Mikey's still awake, so I think we're doing really good right now. So with that said, we go on to our MCB DJ. What have you been watching, man?
I truthfully haven't watched as much, I guess, because I was catching up on shows too, which we'll talk about.
Okay.
But
someone took the Nabil role today. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not. I'm not. No, never. We got movies people actually might watch here. So I'm just, it's not a doc. Nabil's like, fuck you. I watched randomly. I hadn't seen it in a while. 2003's Identity, the James Mangold film about a group of strangers, I suppose you might say, that meet up in this motel in the middle of the night and people start getting killed one by one. I don't know if you guys ever seen it. John Cusack stars in it, but great rewatch, man.
Yes.
I haven't seen this movie in quite some time, but something about this movie just like it really clicks. Obviously, I would say if you've never seen the movie, just go into it blind. Just watch it if you don't know what's going on, because even knowing the twist this time around, it still was very entertaining. I think it has a really good all-star cast. Ray Liotta's in it too, and
I forgot he was in it.
Oh yeah, he's one of the characters, but it centers around these people that seemingly have nothing in common, but then have a ton in common. But it's like I don't know if it's considered a horror film. It's more like a psychological thriller, in my opinion. But
I would say that
there are some murders that are really reminiscent of kind of slasher films, though, in this movie. So that it's definitely a movie that I would say, if you've never seen it, this is definitely one that I usually recommend to people. And rewatching it now, I probably haven't seen it since college. So great rewatch, man. Great rewatch.
So you'd say that it holds up, the twist holds up, and even the mystery still holds up?
Yes. If you guys are looking for it, and it's only like an hour and a half, by the way, which is awesome.
Dang.
So really good rewatch. It was surprising how much fun I had rewatching this one, because lately, the last couple weeks, I've been pretty busy with work and such, but I was able to sneak this one through just to see at home, and fantastic movie. So
yeah, one of my favorite John Cusack films, if not my favorite. It's such
miss John Cusack, man.
Yeah, he's so good in this, and Ray Liotta too is so awesome in this film. And I think, like, to what you were saying, James, there's so much mystery going on with each. You have all these characters, and you don't understand the connection, even if you know the twist. But you're kind of trying to still figure out what this is really
what's going on, really,
and what's going on. Mm-hmm. What am I watching? Why are we invested in this? And as it slowly unfolds, I still feel like when you get to the end, you're still trying to connect the dots. Like, but how did we get to this twist, though?
Right?
Yeah. Because it is trippy, and it just does such a good job of throwing you off throughout the whole film in a way that a lot of films it's hard to nail. And like you said, in 90 minutes too. It's tight. The pacing's really good. Yeah. Not once does it ever get to the point where it's like, oh, this is super slow. It's like, no, you're like,
every turn and every the people start getting picked off one by one, and you're like, why is this happening? I love the setting too, the whole motel in the middle of like this huge storm. It's the middle of the night. It's kind of a creepy factor to it all. It has almost kind of a psycho vibe to it, like you said, Nabil. It's just the twist to it all. There's multiple twists technically to the movie, so
it's one of those movies that sticks with you. I remember when you mentioned you're watching or we're gonna watch it, I remember thinking back of my theater experience and watching this movie. And it's like,
I never saw it in theaters too, by the way.
Dude, it was epic to watch it in theaters, and like the whole audience reaction and everything. You're like, holy shit, what the fuck did we just watch? Would you say it still kind of leaves you with that feeling and you still think about it after?
Yeah, definitely.
Even with the rewatch?
I remember the first time I ever watched it, the ending actually really creeped me out. And I was like, oh no, this is weird. Yeah. So, because it goes in a direction where I like you said, Nabil, like, why did it go in this direction? So, and it's cool because especially if you like James Mangold, he's doing a lot of bigger films now, obviously, and he's working on a Star Wars movie now, and it shows you that he can handle a really large cast really well. Yeah. So,
right on, man. What else have you been watching?
I went on Saturday with Mikey to watch Bad Boys Ride or Die in theaters. And I gotta say, it's not as good as the last Bad Boys film that we saw, Bad Boys
For Life?
Forever? Or it's For Life? Okay.
For Life. Yeah.
They must have not known they were going to do like a fourth movie, maybe, because that would have been perfect for this one, I think. Just for the naming concept of it all, right? But it's more or less, I think, if you like the last film especially, this movie actually pretty much did it for me too. The directors are the same directors from the last movie. It's like Adil and Bilali or something like that. I apologize. It's like a duo that's making these. They recently were just doing that Batgirl film that got canceled or shut down pretty much. So I gotta say, even though the story is pretty stupid for the most part in this movie, Mikey can probably attest to it all. It still has like some fantastic action moments though. The camera work in this movie is really well done. There's a lot of drone shots. There's a lot of these special ways that they film with like a first person view at times too. The real I guess every Bad Boys film is because Will Smith and Martin Lawrence still have like really great chemistry together, even though they are getting older, and it kind of shows, starting to show a little bit in this movie.
Yeah,
truth be told. But I actually think the last movie is probably, we did a review in 2020 right before the end of the world happened. If you guys remember, it's one of our few movies, and I gotta say, man, it makes me intrigued. I'm like, if they could do this with a Bad Boys movie, I wonder how that Batgirl movie would have looked, man. It probably would have been, at the very least, interesting. But I think the dialogue in this one, they do tend to keep kind of bringing up the same old jokes that after a while, it's like, okay, I get it. And Mikey and I talked. There's Martin Lawrence's character kind of goes into like this spiritual kind of sense in this film where he doesn't, the ongoing joke is that he doesn't think he can die. So it is funny at times, but they almost draw it out a little too much, in my opinion.
I feel like they always have to do something weird with his character, like ever since part 2. Like, it's always like, oh, he's not going to kill in this one, or he's going to, try to be nicer in this one. And it's always like a gimmick with his character.
He's always trying to grow in some way. Yeah.
Yeah. And this time around, there are some cool moments in it. I think even some minor character like Reggie, for once, has a fucking standout moment in this movie. That's Martin Lawrence's character's son-in-law, the one that's been around since the second movie. He has a moment that, practically got cheers, and it's amazing. So
that's so random.
It is, but when you see it, you'll be like, holy shit. Like, but for the most part, and hey, I know there's a lot of this controversy with Will Smith, but and then we were just talking about how cinema was dying a week ago, and then guess what? It just flipped again, right? And they're like, well, never mind, Bad Boys, it's really fucking good. Cinema's back. So it's definitely worth watching, I think, in theaters just for the action alone. Especially if you like the last one, I would highly recommend this one just because I still had a lot of fun watching this movie. So
yeah, we saw it together, the last one.
Yeah. I would say check it out. So if you didn't see it, I would say check it out.
Haven't, but I might. I think you've kind of sold me on it. So
I think you would like it, Marco. It's a lot of little funny moments in it too. So
the action was really good. I really liked the action in this movie. The camera work, like you were mentioning, I saw like a behind the scenes thing where they attached like a camera to the gun. So like as he's doing like the poking it down the hallways and stuff, it was like following the gun around, and it just was like really creative. I thought the action was awesome. I liked it a lot.
And like I said, if you like the last one, check this one out.
Good stuff, man.
What have you been watching though, Marco?
I went down a little bit of a nostalgia kick as well, and I mentioned previously I've been watching the Mad Max movies, and I've been continuing that, and I watched Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Nice.
And the Road Warrior it's always been my favorite of the series.
I think that's a lot of people's favorite Mad Max for the most part, outside of the new stuff.
Yeah, that's when Max. When Max really starts off his persona in the wasteland and his legendary status, and he's roaming the wasteland. And in this one, it's the one where he's finds a mini little oil refinery community that's being taunted by the great Lord Humongous, and he decides to help them out in mutual benefit to escape, because he himself is also trapped in there. And man, that's such an entertaining movie, man. It's just for an 80s action movie, still pretty low budget as well too. The action scenes are still pretty damn good. The stunts are still really freaking fantastic. They're jumping cars a lot more in this one because the whole oil refinery encampment is encircled by a giant wall, and as they battle out each other against Lord Humongous, you see cars like crash into it. You see guys get lit on fire. You see them like fly out, and you see all the little inspirations that led to the two newer films, Fury Road and the new Furiosa movie. And it's kind of nice to go back to see those connections and inspirations and see those ideas in their early inceptions. It's fun to see how like the community in this oil rig refinery like basically build a war rig. And I never thought or caught it back then, but seeing like the new movies and how like it's a big deal to build like a war rig or a truck that can like survive out in the wilderness with weapons and protection. It's kind of cool to see where that idea also came from as well, and see it like first tried out in this, and it works, man. George Miller did a great job with this movie, and it still holds up, man. If you're like, I guess one of the people who have only seen the new movies and are interested to see like a little bit more of the history of the character of Max and this world, I say definitely check it out. I mean, definitely watch them in order, and get ready for this one.
The action scenes in that film, especially the driving scenes, I mean, it's a staple for Mad Max, but it really did solidify the interest in the whole lore of Mad Max and the wasteland, and seeing those scenes, how well shot they were. For even he had a decent budget for it, but seeing what he put together for that in that film, it does still hold up. And I think a lot of it, of course, is because it's practical. But man, it's a very unique looking film, even for the time.
Absolutely, man.
I haven't actually seen these ones, so I know you said that they're worth watching, but
fuck,
is it really the same Mad Max character?
No! Stop the recording, James. Go fucking watch this movie right now, Mikey. We're gonna come back. We're gonna talk.
We'll wait.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's on my list. It's been on my list for a while. I actually have them on DVD or Blu-ray, whatever.
They're all in 4K now too, by the way, just so you know, Mikey.
Yeah, I picked them up on 4K so I could watch them because I heard the good things, but I didn't know if it was really like the same character. Is this like was Mad Max Fury Road like a remake of one of these, or just like a whole new like side piece?
The thing is, George Miller does not care. He doesn't care about canon or continuation stuff, so it's technically a sequel to everything.
Yeah,
it's more like, I would say they're more like anthologies where it's just little snippets of Mad Max at a certain time, and every film he's just kind of in the situation. It's really not about him. Well, the first one is about him, but otherwise they're not really about him. He's just kind of in a situation, and then he kind of goes on his way afterwards. And that's every film.
He's a legendary character, so that's why there's that's why the canon, the connections are all mixed up and everything. Think of like the Man with No Name series Clint Eastwood. It's like it's kind of like the same character, but the movies aren't really connected type of thing. Like they are and they aren't. This character is just a legendary figure that so happens to appear in these stories. And whether it's the same guy or not that happens to be in these stories is like up to your interpretation, basically.
All right. I will watch them.
Please
I'll
do.
follow up next time.
And yeah, of course, I watched Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, which is supposedly like the weakest one in the series. And I recently saw a video that sort of talked about like the timeline of these movies and when they take place and everything. And I was almost going to skip this one, but I was like, no, I'll be a completionist and watch it because it's the only one that's rated PG-13 of all the ones in the series. Like I think even Furiosa is rated R. But man, it's actually it's pretty good, man. It's a lot different because it's the whole story is George Miller wanted to make sort of a Lord of the Flies story within the Mad Max world and incorporate it somewhere somehow, and it seemed to work. I used to not like this movie when I was young. They would show it on TNT so many fucking times, and
This is the one they showed a lot.
Yeah, whenever I would be
think this is the
flipping
first one I
channels-
ever. I think I saw parts of it. This is the first time I ever even saw anything Mad Max wise. Was this one?
Yeah, and it's strangely enough one of the most quoted ones too. It's mainly because of Tina Turner's character Auntie Entity. Like she tends to rhyme whenever she presents and talks. Like there's the whole like break a deal, spin the wheel, and the whole one man enters, two men enter, one man leaves for Thunderdome. But it's still entertaining. It's still pretty freaking violent as well too. I think that a lot of people bag on Tina Turner and her performance on this, but I think she did pretty good. I think her character is actually
she was probably one of the more interesting characters in that specific film.
Yeah, she makes an interesting villain because she's not like pure evil, and she's like actually legit trying to like make a society where, yeah, of course, like if you get in trouble or if you start a fight or something, you have to fight in what's called Thunderdome and fight your opponent to the death, and then whoever's left living leaves. But it's still like looking at like these other movies and looking at the lawlessness within the wasteland. It's like at least there was some order. It's not fucking perfect, but it's something to keep people from completely like tearing each other apart like animals and have some sort of stability in there. Albeit, of course, there's the whole like power play between her and Master Blaster. But I thought that the Lord of the Flies aspect of it with the lost kids, and the whole Captain Walker story would be annoying, but I actually found it entertaining and it actually wasn't that bad. And especially like watching these movies in order and watching it from Mad Max until now, you've seen and understand now why Mad Max would want to help these kids and why he would want to like give them some sort of chance and hope, the hope that he never got and he could never do in this world. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
I haven't watched these since I think I rewatched them all before Fury Road was the last time I saw them.
I didn't get a chance to do that, so I'm just doing it now, and I'm like, man,
It's cool though.
Yeah, let me look at some of the callbacks that they do in the newer movies, and I'm probably going to end up going all the way to Fury Road. Obviously, it's the next one.
Yeah, if you've never seen the black and chrome version of Fury Road, if it's I'm just trying to watch it like that, I would say check that version out too.
I may, because I have yet to watch that version. Everyone tells me it's pretty good.
Yeah, George Miller originally wanted to film it that way, so.
Oh shit, good to know. But that's what I've been watching.
All right, so let's get on to our main review of The Watchers.
You have 5 seconds before the door is sealed. 5, 4, 3, 2. What is happening? What is this place? I don't mean to scare you, but we haven't much time. It's not wise to keep them waiting. They'll be very interested in someone new.
It's a window on the other side. They come every night.
And they watch us.
What is that? What are they doing?
Applause. For you, Mina.
How long have you been here? I don't know.
You've never seen one.
No one sees one and survives.
All right, on to our review of The Watchers. This is sitting at 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. And the synopsis is The Watchers follow Mina, a 28-year-old artist who gets stranded in an expansive, untouched forest in the Western Ireland. When Mina finds shelter, she unknowingly becomes trapped alongside 3 strangers that are watched and stalked by mysterious creatures in the night. Written and directed by Ishana Night Shyamalan, who did Servant in 2021 through 2023. She did 6 episodes. It's based on a novel by A.M. Shine, and this was released on June 7th of 2024, and is starring Dakota Fanning as Mina, Georgina Campbell as Ciara, Olwen Foyer as Madeline, Oliver Finnegan as Daniel, Alistair Brammer as John, which is Ciara's husband, and John Lynch as the professor. So real quick, guys, what were your thoughts on the movie? Did this work or not? And we'll start off with Marco.
Let's see. It was okay, man. It kind of worked for me. I thought the story is pretty interesting. The whole fable/fairy tale aspect of what was going on was interesting. But I guess I wanted more. I guess I expected more. I liked the cinematography of this movie. The acting was pretty good for the most part. But I guess I felt just craving more from the story. I don't know. Maybe because it's a Shyamalan movie. I know it's his daughter, but I guess I was expecting like something in the end. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe it's my fault for expecting that. But I was expecting like something at the end. I was just like, that's it.
Like a mini twist, just a mini one.
Yeah, because to be honest, I'll talk more on this later. But I mean, the twist that they had was pretty fucking predictable.
Slightly, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, James, did you feel the same way? How did you feel about the movie?
Yeah, I was like, it was okay. It wasn't terrible. Don't get me wrong. I was intrigued by it all, and I guess I'm with Marco on it, where I did just kind of want more. I didn't. It's teeter-tottering between like a few genres, really. And it's almost like I wish if it's going to go more into the horror, like go more into that horror aspect of it all. And there is a pretty good sense of mystery throughout it. And I do like the sense of kind of like dread they have each night, because we're following Mina. She runs into these 3 strangers. She doesn't know that we can trust them or not. And in the beginning, she doesn't even know if she can, like, what they're saying is true. But I guess it is shot very well. I'll give her that much. It's shot very well. It has it's well acted. All the actors. It is a smaller film for a first time director as well, which I think helps. So there's really only 4 characters that we ever see at any given time, and there are some interesting things I'll talk about later about how it's shot and such like that too, especially Ishana Shyamalan's directorial style and such like that, which I actually appreciated. But for the most part, it's not a movie that's going to be sticking with me for too long, truth be told, unfortunately. And like Marco said, I did want a lot more out of it, I think, too.
Okay. And what about you, Nabil?
Yeah, I'm in a close range with everybody else here as far as how the film was. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. It's not a crazy, scary film. It's definitely in the same range as like any of her father M. Night's movies, where there's a horror aspect to it, but it's not necessarily the gory aspect. It still leans more into psychological and like the unseen horror part of it. This film actually reminded me a bit of, I don't know if you guys remember this film with Jennifer Connelly, Dark Water, in 2005, and also the M. Night film Lady in the Water in 2006.
Okay, that part, yes. Dark Water, no. Dark Water is a remake of a Japanese horror film.
I mean, not in the sense of the actual like story, but I mean the feeling in that film. Like those two, it's like to me a mix of that, where you've got the unknown, you don't know what's going on, and so there's a bit of eeriness going on throughout the film, but it's not like heavy horror or a lot of jump scares or anything. It's just kind of like a softer take on it, and that's how I felt. It just for some reason reminded me of Dark Water and Lady in the Water, both of those films in that sense. And so it's an enjoyable enough film to watch, but it, like you said, James, it isn't something where you're going to go back and say, like, man, remember that one film and the twist that happened in the end? Like, I'm not going in that way, but it's like it's an interesting plot. Yeah, it's an interesting story that maybe, I don't know if that's based because of the novel on how that story goes, but there's not there's not a lot for you to feel like you want to come back to it. You just are kind of given the interesting part of it, and then what they go through at the end seems like, okay, well, I guess I don't really care what happened before anymore. So we're done with the story. So it's okay film.
Yeah, and I felt similar to what you guys were mentioning as well. I feel like the movie does a little bit too much hand-holding. It gives you a little bit too much of the right information, and it kind of limits your imagination on what could happen, and that kind of makes it so it's not everything that maybe you could think it might be, right? I mean, I know that makes sense here, but yeah, it's there's no mystery there, right? It's hey, here's what's happening, and this is how it is.
Because it's like such a strange concept that they have to almost let you do that, and to kind of give you a heads up, like this is the setting, and they almost have to through the dialogue, especially from Madeline, to let them know, like, you know, and then this is what happens. They just watch and so on and so forth, and these are the rules.
Information might be better though.
Yeah, the less you know, that makes it more interesting in this case, especially.
Because I gotta say, when it opens, I was really intrigued where the scenes with John, how he's trying to escape, and it's like, what the fuck's going on, you know? And I wish it was kind of more of that, truth be told.
That's what I was gonna say, is if maybe she was isolated at first, Mina, and we kind of see it from her perspective, and then she's put together with the rest of the group and kind of has an inkling of the rules, but then that way we're learning with her. That would have been better.
Instead of directly being told, but I guess with how the plot is, it wouldn't have worked because then technically she wouldn't have made it through the night, right?
True.
All right, well, let's move on to some characters here. I know, Marco, you mentioned that you liked some of the acting and things like that. Did you have any thoughts about Mina or any of the other characters?
Yeah, I thought that they had, at least for the plot, a good chemistry with the distrust going on. It's a very thin line that's holding them together, and that's just that basic survival. But you definitely see that, you know, Daniel's very like unhinged, and like you can tell like from the get-go that he's kind of like already losing it. And that that Madeline, I guess, is the one that's keeping everyone like together, and is sort of like the mom figure and the leader figure. And Ciara is just sort of like, she's just sort of there, you know, she's trying to hold her composure and worried about finding her husband, John.
The sweet person that's kind of like, you know, she's just like, you know, I'll teach you about these plants. And then Daniel's just super fucking Irish.
Yeah.
Like super Irish.
Ciara's in denial. Daniel's is like the realist, grounded, that's like, we're all gonna fucking die, so what does it matter? And Madeline's like the hopeful one. It's like, no, we can do this. And I kind of like that dynamic. So then when Mina's in there, she's just like, I really don't know who to connect with. And it kind of leaves the audience like that too. Like, I'm like, oh shit, this is pretty interesting. But again, this is why maybe isolating Mina at first would have worked as well, because like you already start to question why is Madeline like in charge? Like, she's, you know, I know she's old, but like how long has she been here? And if everyone knew the rules, how did she know the fucking rules? You know what I mean? Like at some point there's got to be something that tells you the rules. So it would have been nice to kind of have like a little throw off and have Mina kind of learn the rules as she goes. And then from there it throws, you know, suspicion away from more things in the plot that I can't spoil right now.
I would have liked more time with Mina by herself, just from a character development, because you start off learning that she's different. She has this weird interaction in the beginning on a date, and it seems odd, and they're trying to build something towards a character, and then you get into the woods with her, and she comes off as a bit of a rebel, but she really isn't. She's just more curious, and it's just, to me, like, whatever we're trying to set up for her at the beginning was kind of lost, especially when you continue going on. She's just trying to get out of there, essentially. So I don't feel like I got what they were trying to set up to where they go when they're in the actual, you know, the plot of the film. I don't feel like I got that character that they were building towards in there anymore. It was a little different of a person after that, and I don't know. I didn't feel like everybody else was really fleshed out. Like they were who they were. Like, you know, like you said, Marco, they had their tropes as who they were in this room. But Mina, she's supposed to be different. But I also felt like we didn't get the full realization of who she was. And if we spent a little bit more time with her before the interaction with everybody and maybe got that fleshed out a bit, there would have been a better connection. But
I actually think for me, it was kind of the opposite of me. I won't lie. Like I thought her arc was the strongest thing, and what we're really following along in the movie for the most part, right? In the beginning scenes, like no one is in focus outside of her, right? She's the only one in focus the entire time, and it kind of shows that she doesn't belong, right? And she dresses up at the date, and she's pretending to be someone else, and it goes along with the plot with what we find out about these creatures and such in a way too, where they also are pretending to be something else that they are. And she comes to this place in the middle of the forest, and it's like she has her own demons that she's dealing with personally, where, you know, she's not communicating with her twin sister, and she's kind of running away from everything as well. And that's why she's in the middle of Ireland for no reason. I don't think they ever fully break down why the fuck she's even out there, but working at a pet store out of anything, right? By the end of the film, I actually liked where her character goes. Although it's really kind of fumbled the ball big time for me in the last act. Mm-hmm. But she finally finds something that she can latch onto and get over her own insecurities and darkness. And I actually enjoyed that part of it for the most part. But I get where you get, like, we wanted to get a bit more of that throughout it, or at least more of they do these flashbacks with her throughout the film. And it kind of does explain it, but it would have been nice to just dive a little bit, like we said, just a bit more. So. And to your point too, like it is a lot more of telling you than it is showing you. Even with the flashbacks, they're kind of just telling you, hey, this is how you need to feel because this is why she is who she is right now. You know, it's like I would have liked a little bit more growth, but I can see your point on that. That's an interesting connection that you had with like the overarching plot of the film. But yeah, again, I feel like we could have had a little bit more time with Mina.
Yeah, I feel like the flashbacks kind of flesh her out a little bit, so that didn't really bother me on my side. It just really feels like she's trying to escape every aspect of this movie, right? Like she's escaping herself, she's escaping the forest. You know, just escape seems to be like her theme. And through the flashbacks, you kind of can see why that's happening. So I did like how they fleshed her out on my side here. I agree with James. The ending is kind of weird, but her character, I mean, they did what they could, I think, with the scenes that they had. Well, moving on to some of the plot and themes. Nabil, what do you think about, just the overall themes or plots of the movie?
Well, again, I go back to what James was saying about the idea of like change, and that I think is a big theme of this film of growth. And so I like that. I really was interested in, I don't want to spoil anything here, so I'm not going to say specifics, but I am interested in like what the we'll say the villain or the creatures are in this film that you're interacting with, the danger. Like that's an interesting premise. I like the idea of this kind of folklore that's built into it. I think everything gets pretty interesting up into even like the mid twist before the final part of the third act happens. Like that was all very intriguing. It's just once that happens and you go into the very last part of the film, to what James was saying, they really, I don't know, they filmed that. It didn't work. It didn't hold up to what everything else was going to. It just didn't pay off as well. And that really kind of ruined things a bit for the film. But I like where they were going with it. I like the scenes in the forest and that mystery, like that whole, we kept everything just there and lingered a little bit longer to maybe even end the film there, I think it would have made more for a better thriller than where we ended up going. And I think that part of it has to do with the fantasy folklore aspect of it, and they wanted to really show off more of that to pay off at the end. But I don't know, I feel in this film we could have kept it more ambiguous.
I agree with Nabil. I feel like having too much time pass outside of the forest, I think kind of like kills the mood and like the feeling of the movie. I think just like Nabil said, ending it, right after the forest, or maybe even like not spending too much time outside of the forest, after, I think would have done it a little bit more justice. I think it would have had a better payoff as well too. And I also think it would have helped Mina's character as well. Man, it's just really tough to talk about her arc without like the spoilers or anything.
I would almost hold off. I'm just
gonna say that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was telling Mikey, this movie has more fucking endings than the Return of the King. So, yeah. I literally was calling it out in the theater. I was like, ending number 6 coming up here. Okay, cool.
Well, just touching on the Watchers and the whole horror elements of the movie. Marco, did you like the mystery that they had of the Watchers or the elements they brought for the horror aspect of the movie?
Yeah, I think that worked. That's some of the parts I liked the most about the movie. The fact that you have no idea who or what the fuck they are. The first reveal of the Watchers is fucking great too. It's sort of like just in the shadows, and you see like this creature, like, you know, in the distance, and you see the eyes glowing and stuff, and you're like, what the fuck is that? You don't know if it's like a humanoid or an animal type, you know, monster. You don't know exactly what to expect. I think that's where the movie shines its most. The horror, I agree with James. I think he said that he really liked it. I enjoyed it as well. There are some parts that are really fucking creepy and scary, and it's not just relying on jump scares. Like it's just like, you know, you hear the noises of the Watchers on the distance in the woods. You hear their claws and scratches banging against the doors. Like all that stuff like really worked. And I like when it happens, like when the characters are talking as well too. And like they're just there like trying to like scare the shit out of, you know, the people that they're watching. It's interesting to not know like what the Watchers like want as well too. Like they just have these people in a room and they're just there like watching them interact and shit. And you know, slowly fucking go crazy, I guess. It's, again, where the movie really is its strongest, because you're just glued to the screen just trying to figure out, like, what the fuck is going on. And that's where I agree with you also, Mikey, where maybe they should have done a little less hand-holding.
Yeah, the horror works for the most part in this thing. I just wish there was a little bit more of it. And I mean, truthfully, it had me guessing up until, you know, when you find out, because I was thinking, what could they be? Could they be aliens? Could it be some shit like this? Or
until they do the whole training video thing, and you're like, oh, okay, guess we're all gonna watch the story here unfold.
Yeah,
YouTube
okay,
video.
Cool. Oh, nice. Okay, cool, man. Okay, vlogged for me. It was. I liked it though, and then you know you get we'll talk about it in the spoilers, but they haven't kind of a power to themselves that I thought was actually really creepy, and it worked really well for the most part. I thought that actually was one of the more standout things too, and it reminded me, have you ever seen the Netflix film The Ritual? It's a horror film. There are these guys going to trip to Sweden.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that's way better, by the way, just as in that aspect of horror, but very similar kind of a creature, I will say. So
yeah, and just to echo on what you guys just mentioned here, I feel like the forest part is the best part of this movie, and just kind of expanding that would have been great, in my opinion. And they could have just ended it, you know, on an escape or whatever. But the whole shadowy figures things, I think they did a really good job making tense moments without having jump scares. There is some really like creepy eyeballs in the shadows, and just, you know, they're in the bush just trying to be silent, and just creepy things are happening. You don't really know.
Marco tries to come up and knock on the door at one point.
Yeah, it's just they did a good job with that part, and just doing that stuff more would have been fantastic, in my opinion.
No pants.
To kind of push things a little bit differently here, let's talk about Ishana's directorial debut. James, you kind of mentioned you had something there that you liked, so I'll let you kind of start off.
Okay, everyone's like Nepo baby, right? Probably. She's only 24. She directed a fucking movie. Her dad financed the whole thing. So it's not like they lost out on any money on this, right? For the most part.
Good for her, though.
Hey, you know what? He has 3 daughters. She's the only one that has any like inkling to film and direct. I got to give her a tip of the hat. For a first-time director, not bad. A lot of first-time films, you're not going to be perfect. There's going to be a lot of issues. Obviously, this is not a perfect movie. But I got to give it, like, she seems like she might have the touch for something, man. So it seems like, especially with her cinematography, maybe, once again, this was a very isolated movie. Maybe something a little more expansive might be better. Who knows? A little tighter writing, too. She wrote the whole thing, too, by the way. So
I did not know that. Yeah.
I mean, I can't even bash her on that either. So not bad for somebody much younger than us, and probably going to do better in life. I mean, I don't know, probably. But I liked her approach with the characters, really. And it's just like Marco said, there's a good chemistry between all the characters, and sometimes you need a good director to kind of get that going. So that worked. And like I said, cinematography, it's almost there is what I'm saying for me, but it just doesn't quite hit it. Like Marco said and Nabil said, and you, Mikey, I just wanted a bit more. So as a first time director, I have to say not bad. So
I wanted to add to, I know that we've talked about cinematography, but specifically, I really liked her, and it's still early stages with her. I'm sure we'll see something more in the future, but I really liked her use of color in this film. Like when you look at the forest and the greenness of it, and then when Mina's character is actually in the forest, and the changes of hues because they have to be out in the sunlight, and then when it goes dark, and when you're inside the room, and like she does a really good job at setting that tone with the color and those quiet long shots of the area that they're in, like those where everybody's talking about here the creatures and you're seeing their eyes in the background, like it's all those little subtle things that really gets you interested in wanting to know more, but also kind of creeped out because you don't know what's around the corner. And one of those films where there could be a shadow at any moment behind you, and if you take a quick blink, you might have missed the whole thing and don't know what's going on. So
there's a lot of little things like that.
Yeah, she does a really good job with those moments in there. So I think that's going to translate well into maybe another horror film she does in the future.
I agree, and it's what she does with the color too in the forest that makes it a lot more creepier too. It immerses you a little bit more in the moment. But going on the cinematography, she does this thing where Shyamalan does this in some of his other movies, especially in Unbreakable, where like she's shooting the scene like through things, right? Like through a window or behind a counter or something. And you're kind of like, it's like you're watching these people like and their lives unfold. The whole blurring of the faces in the beginning, or shooting people from the back of the head and not revealing their faces. Like her father has done that too in other films as well. Nabil mentioned that this movie had a touch of The Village. I felt that too, especially in the forest, like where it's very unsettling. M. Night does this in The Village, where it's like just very unsettling to be in the forest. And she does the same thing here. It's just like every time they're in the forest, like whether they're, picking wood or hunting, it's like, it's just super fucking creepy. And you're just like waiting for something to happen that just like doesn't or does. But yeah, you can see like where she's paying like homage to her dad and using some of like his signature styles.
Yeah, and overall, I thought just the visuals in general were well done. And the use of colors, you guys already kind of mentioned this, but she has really promising stuff here. I liked what she wrote in there. I liked the content she had. It's just maybe the approach that she had with some of the elements that she lifted. So I think
she directed 6 episodes of Servant, which is a really good show. So I mean, I'm assuming that got her into that mode of it all. So
we'll kind of leaving it open. Did anything else stand out to you guys? We'll just leave it open to the floor here before we get into spoilers.
I really like we touched a little bit on the creatures. I actually really liked when they did the review, the reveal, the character designs of them, how they looked. Too often even with M. Night specifically, when they do the reveal of what the creature is or what the alien or whatever it might be, it's really disappointing. And you look at it, it's like, oh, this isn't that scary. I preferred it being in the shadow and the creep. Like this actually looked terrifying, and I was all for it up until the ending reveal. I was like, meh. But the parts in the woods, like when they show the character and the shadowy figure of him, that was really well put together. It was a genuine creep factor in there, and it's very rare that you get a film that can have a character like that actually be creepy and not kind of like take away the mystery and of the creature that you're watching in the film.
All right, well, let's give a star rating and jump into spoilers here. So we'll just go around and see what you guys gave it as a star rating and would you recommend people watch this film. So we'll start with James.
I give this one 3 stars. Thought it was, like I said, not terrible, not great, but pretty kind of in the middle there. I would say if you are a big M. Night Shyamalan fan, there is a lot to like here. I don't know if it's necessary to see in theaters, but when it comes out, I would probably rent it at least. But not a bad, like I said, not a bad first star for Shyamalan. So.
All right, and Marco?
I give it 2.5 stars, which I know it seems pretty low, but I would still say, check out the movie, maybe wait for it to stream, and just maybe hold back your expectations.
Nabil?
I gave this 3 stars, and I also would recommend this film. Probably best to watch it on VHS on a very old CRT TV, where it's like kind of staticky. Really get the feel of this film. No, it's worth a watch. I think I agree with James. Probably not necessarily in the theaters. I think it's a wait to watch at home, but it's an interesting little horror film to see for a first time film director.
Yeah, and I gave it 3 stars as well. I do say go ahead and watch it, but I would wait for streaming or renting something you can watch at home. Although the visuals, as we've been saying, were pretty good. So, well, that is our standard stuff here. We're going to jump into spoilers. So if you don't want to hear about what's happening here, jump forward and see what we're doing next week or next pod. All right, guys. So the reveal of the Watchers here. So these are Irish folklore fairies is what they're saying.
Fairies, yeah.
And they kind of have this shape-shifting capabilities, and that's why they're watching people. So
because they want to become them.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. They want to, and it kind of jumps on what Marco was saying a moment ago, how maybe they were shining, like they were filming things from like behind people's faces. Maybe those people were replaced, right? So I don't know if that's the case. I didn't think about that beforehand, but what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I thought it was cool. It was different. I didn't think it was. I knew it was something like that. Either they were tree people. I don't know about you guys, but I kept thinking of like tree ants, maybe. But it was cool. It was creepy as hell because I mean, we get a scene in the film where they already start kind of doing it, and they kind of hint at it. Like there's always something a little off with them, right? They're not quite like perfected yet because John, Sierra's husband, comes back and is knocking on the door, but it's one of these creatures, right? And it's creepy because it gives you that concept like you don't know who to trust and you don't know who to believe at that point. So I thought it was well done.
I like that, but at the same time, it also made the whole Madeline reveal a little too obvious because it's like you start to think, well, she's the one that knows the rules. She's the one that's been there the longest. And that's where I think the whole like explaining part kind of gave away too much. And you're just kind of like, oh, yeah, I already know what it is. And then they show the video too of the professor like doing his experiment on the one he captured. And then I guess, he takes the ferry upstairs and you hear the gunshots and it's like, ain't no way that fairy's dead. Fairy's still in there with you guys.
We were saying, or like she's a watcher, right? Like early, I'm talking early on in the movie, man.
Yeah.
So she knew way too much. I think it's pretty obvious, but until they understand, they kind of explain the halfling part of it all. That's when they're like, oh, I wonder why she was able to leave though, and they can't leave, right? And it makes sense.
She can go on the day and everything like that too.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see where we ended. Sorry, Mikey, just say to add on to what you were saying. If we ended it on the bus and maybe a close up of Madeline with her eye looking at thing, that would have been fine.
We were like, dude, if it ended on the bus, it would have been a stronger ending. But the movie decides to just keep going on for another 20 minutes after that,
or beyond that, Nabil. After she discovers the whole thing about the halflings and everything. The person who let her into the university, it's just the back of her head, and then Madeline's like shocked look, and then cuts to black, and you realize, oh shit, they've already escaped into the world. Like that's just a training center for the other ones, Like I think that would have been like super fucking creepy too. Like I don't know.
I do like that we get the ending where Mina reconnects with her sister, though. I actually did like that.
Yeah, that was at least something to continue with the character
gives the full arc of her character in a way, and but then they keep going after. Then she's like, "I gotta go to the university tomorrow." I'm like, "Fuck, you didn't go yet?" So,
that's.
I was like, "Damn, what the hell?"
She got it on a fucking calendar.
Yeah, she's like, "I'm gonna go tomorrow." I'm like, "You came back?" I'm like, "Okay." I mean, I guess that was more important. I get it. And then everyone from that point forward, you do see everybody in focus. So it's kind of like she's back in society. She's like back, she finally belongs. I get that. I actually like that part. But then it goes on too long. They go to the university. They find the photo that the guy, that was his wife. And it was just pretending to be his wife. And that's Madeline. And she's a halfling. And then we get another ending where she calls Sierra apparently like, I'm going to meet you in the pitch black of your house with no lights on.
Yep.
Whole time I was like, can you turn a fucking light on? Can you turn a light on, please? It's dark as fuck in here.
Yeah, the whole fucking battle at the end was unnecessary too. It was just way too fucking much. If they were going to end it on a good note, like James was saying, where Amina goes to see her sister or anything like that, like if they just go from the store from the forest and just cut to that, and then like something weird happens where she finds out like, maybe her sister.
Like Marco, it could have been like the university when she sees a photo and she just is like shocked seeing the photo of Madeline in that photo, and then boom, credits, right?
Yeah, that would have been perfect. But I think like keeping the sister thing in there worked with Mina's whole character development because she was pretending to be other people, and then like she realized that this whole ordeal makes her kind of appreciate her life and reawaken herself again because she's like, gotta appreciate what I got because otherwise I'll be gone tomorrow, and don't want to be looked at as a monster.
Just to kind of throw some out there too, it's like I feel like the Madeline Amina situation at the very, very like the seventh ending, not the eighth, but their conversation at the end, it really kind of redeems humanity. Because they were all saying like humans are pieces of shit basically, and like destroyed the phase and made them the way they are, and that kind of gives them a human like, oh, we have emotions, we help people out too, and Madeline kind of changing and like going away kind of redeems humanity a little bit. Kind of makes it so they're not
she's
really
not even
like,
aware she's a halfling. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She just, I mean, they say it's sloppy. It's just like they reveal too much. Where she's like, "Oh, I was always different from everyone else," and they always called me out, and I never belonged. But in a way, she almost is like Mina's character, where she feels like she never belonged either, right? So I mean, there are aspects of the ninth ending there that I actually like, but it's like it just goes on too long with it. And I do like that Mina actually makes her realize that, like, no, you aren't like the other people, and you don't have to be like them. Like, you actually were protecting us when we were out in that place. And I actually like that part where she's telling her, like, you looked out for us the whole time, and we're like a family, and like we're not going to tell anybody about you and blah blah, but it just goes on too long, really. That's all.
Yeah. It's like learning to let go your trauma, which is what Mina had to do as well too. She was just exactly. She herself felt like a monster because she felt like she caused the accident with her mom.
The death of her mom, because she was being a little shit. But in a way, it's just I almost say that that's because this is her first full movie, and writing credits, that she just didn't quite know how she wanted to end it. It's almost like it was like she had 3 endings in mind. Like, fuck it, we'll do all of them. Yeah. So it definitely fell flat for me on that the last act there, where they go back to the Elvis take. Oh wait, no, I'm mixing it up again. Get on the boat with Bilbo.
Anybody have anything else they want to talk about as far as the endings go? All of them? Any of them?
I want to bring up one scene that I liked. I like when they go down into the burrow with Daniel, the Irish kid, who's super Irish, by the way.
Oh, the James chamber? Yeah.
Yeah, and then they find the James vehicle, which is the bike, and they can't quite use it. But I actually like. There's a lot of hints early on that Madeline. That's when I kind of knew. I was like, she knows too much shit, man. Yeah. And she's like, "Where did you get this? Like, you couldn't have found this stuff." And they find, I like the tension in that scene. Just when Mina's. I think that's when Mina finally realizes these things are pretty fucking dangerous, man. When the hand starts reaching out, that generally kind of gave me the chills.
Oh yeah, that was terrifying. That was a good little.
I didn't know what the fuck that was.
6 fingers or whatever. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was too many fingers, which is a sign that it hasn't perfected what it's trying to be like, right?
Right.
And I'm assuming that was the John character, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yep.
That's what I thought too.
And it does suck. I will say that Daniel dies at the end because he feels bad that he was the one that was going to abandon everybody in a way, and so he feels in his heart that he has to go back and maybe that is John. And he's trying to save him, which leads to his death. I was like, damn, that fucking sucks. Because up to that point, like, I get it. He's a young kid and he's scared. But he was trying to be brave and it just caused him to fucking get K'd right there. So very Irish. Once again, I could not understand half the words. I said, I think he's yelling for them. I'm not quite sure. Right? Or that might be
his father, drunken background story. Like, everything's there. Yeah. Checks all the boxes.
All right, guys, that's the end of the podcast. We really appreciate you all for tuning in. Marco, let them know how they can stay connected with us.
Of course, you can follow and listen to us on your preferred podcast platforms. We're everywhere. For a convenient link to all our social media channels, visit linktree/moviepalspod. That's linktr.ee/moviepalspod. And remember, hit that subscribe button and you'll never miss an episode in this forest or the next.
And catch us on TikTok for a sneak peek of upcoming episodes and more exciting moving content. Follow us at MoviePalsPod.
Make sure to tune in to our next episode, podcast episode number 177, where we will be reviewing The Bike Riders and start on our next new frontier of marathon movies, starting with the 1979 film Star Trek, the motion picture.
Thank you, Nabil. Until next time, this is James,
Marco,
Nabil,
and Mikey.
Have a great one.